Yes, they are sleepless in Seattle, but for reasons other than two love interests destined to be together. The Seahawks and the Lombardi Trophy. Those are the ones that are together and they celebrate throughout the night. We will go back to Super Bowl 60, take a look at it, and break it all down for you from every single angle, including, that one, the one in New England. Certainly a great first season for Mike Vrabel as the head coach of the Patriots, but a disappointing ending. Where do they go from here, and where did it went wrong? We'll talk about that. And back to the champs, the head coach of the Seahawks, Mike Macdonald, going to join the show, as well as another guy you're going to see in a second here, Kenneth Walker III. Yeah, bring him in, Mike. He is joining the show as well, the Super Bowl MVP. Those two guys with the Insiders. Welcome back inside and back home with the Insiders. Ian Rappaport. Yeah. He's in his basement. Mike Garofalo here in my office. Tom Pelissero probably watching us as he's flying over us, and Judy Batista watching from home. It is the offseason, which means plenty of us, plenty of news, all that good stuff. But before we get there, let's look back to Super Bowl 60 in Santa Clara, California. On Sunday night, a rematch of Super Bowl 49. There is Sam Darnold saying, I like the script. Not that script that, people think is written about the whole entire season, like the offensive script. Here is the defensive script. Let's get after Drake Maye. Derek Hall right there with the sack early in the game. And then later in the first quarter, about 4 minutes to go, another one. Another sack. Devin Witherspoon for a loss of 10. Stephon Diggs says, let's get it going. Mike Vrabel really tried to encourage his offensive line through the course of the night. Results wouldn't get much better. Here is the guy that wound up being the MVP, Kenneth Walker, off the edge for a gain of 30 yards to the Patriots 46 right there. 2 plays later, it's 2nd and 10 from the Patriot 46. Walker picks up another 29 yards, and at this point we're saying, like, this dude may wind up as the MVP, a gain to the 17-yard line. Now to the third quarter with the Patriots trailing 12-0, a death by 1,000 field goals. A fumble recovered by Byron Murphy. Let's take another look at that one with Hall getting the punch out. A lot of guys who were starting to make a case for MVP, but it wound up being Walker. Just a complete defensive domination to this point. Would we actually see a touchdown? Sam Darnold on a well-designed play for A.J. Barner says, yes, don't worry about that. 60 Super Bowls, 60 games with at least one touchdown, 19-0. It really felt like it was over, but perhaps the Patriots, who once had a great comeback in the Super Bowl, could do it again. Here is Mac Hollins, 35 yards to get the Patriots on the board. Should have gone for 2 here. Didn't matter, but yes, absolutely the math said you should have gone for 2. And here is Maye, a pass overthrown and picked off by Julian Blackmon. I remember Chris Collinsworth's commentary on this one saying, I got nothing for you here. This one was just a busted, confused play. Drake Maye trying to force it in. And again, we're at the point where this one feels like it's really over. Here is Maye. Gets his arm hit. Uchenna Nwosu takes it back to the house for a touchdown. The 2nd Super Bowl in franchise history. Now officially going to the Seahawks at that point. Mention Walker, the MVP, and Mike Macdonald, the 3rd youngest head coach to win the Super Bowl. Get that Gatorade bath. Enjoy it, my friend. You have earned it. Here's Darnold.
Yeah, I don't think it's really hit me yet, to be honest with you. But it's special. And again, like I always say, it's this group is why it's special. The connection that all of us have as players, the love that we have for each other. The players, the coaches, really everybody in the building, top down, from Jody all the way down. It's the love that we share, throughout the building is special. And I've never been at a place like it.
Sam Darnold, he's a beast. He's everything that you want in a quarterback and a leader. He led his troops today like he's been doing all season. He doesn't let the noise get to him. He's a baller, man, and I've been saying it. The media, they got their own, they want to talk about some, but he's a world champ, and that's something you can't take from him, and that's something that's cemented in history.
That cigar looks amazing. I am overdue. It's way too cold here in Jersey for me to partake. It'll be a little chilly in Seattle, but I'm telling you, they're going to be feeling plenty of warm the next couple of days. leading up to Wednesday when they will celebrate that Lombardi Trophy, the second in franchise history, as part of their parade. Ian Rappaport, get back in here. Brian Balding and Mark Ross joining us as well. Baldy, let's start with you. An incredible performance by this Seahawks defense. Ian and I were talking about this last night. We were watching the game. It's not like we were talking about this team as a dominant defense the entire season. They had some games. The Tampa one comes to mind. There were a couple others where they gave up a lot of points. But, man, they really locked it down as the season went along.
They did, Mike, and, it really starts with their preparation. I mean, there was nothing that they were fooled by that New England threw at them the entire night. And so they were very, very well prepared. But they could get home and affect Drake Maye with just their front four. They could blitz, Devin Witherspoon off the edge on their Mike Nickel-Sam blitz that got home every single time, whether it led to a sack or whether it led to the interception by Nwosu. And they forced 8 straight punts by the Patriots. So they controlled the line of scrimmage from a defensive standpoint. And then overall, not to turn the ball over, to run the ball the way K9 did. And then, to have their special teams go and play, whether it was field position where you're putting the ball from Dixon inside the 10 3 different times, or whether Myers makes all his field goals, it was a complete domination. Started with preparation by Mike Macdonald from the top down to all their players.
For sure, that preparation, right, Baldy? You saw some looks that you hadn't seen before from that Seattle defense, and you can do that because you have a masterful head coach. But as we've been talking about for weeks and weeks, it's this so much talent that they have on all levels of that defense, and guys just play with such cohesion and togetherness and are just so smart and talented and explosive. So all of that came together where you saw every single level of that defense make plays last night. The pass rush was there. They couldn't run the ball against those guys. The linebackers made plays in space. The coverage was outstanding. And as Sam Darnold said, a special group. It was not just the defense. Baldy, you mentioned the special teams. The kicker, Myers, could have been the MVP. The punter could have been the MVP. 3 punts inside the 10, 2 inside the 5, 7 punts all together. And then the offensive side, Kenneth Walker just goes and explodes as we've seen him get better throughout the year as well. Sam Darnold just had to hang on and say, hey, you guys do everything else. So really a special group, a special team effort, and a historic defensive performance there from that defense.
Yeah, it was interesting. We were talking to some of the Seattle guys that worked for the Seahawks before the game, and they were talking about just how tough their division was and really just wondering, like, okay, because we got through our division, because we faced all those challenges, and then obviously, to get to the Super Bowl, maybe we've shown that not only are we battle-tested, but that maybe we're kind of above where everyone else was, and that really played out. Looked like the faster team, looked like the more physical team, even though this New England defense actually looked like they were kind of running the routes for the Seattle receivers early on. The Seattle defense was just better, and it's really amazing what General Manager John Schneider has done. Twice he has changed out starting quarterbacks over the course of the last 10 years and only used it to restock and refocus his team. He used the picks from the Russell Wilson trade to bolster the offensive line and defensive line. We saw fruits of that happen on Sunday. And then changing out Geno Smith for Sam Darnold. Really just, the icing on the cake. I mean, look, Darnold wasn't perfect, but no turnovers, and let this defense play exactly, Mike, what the Seattle team needs.
Baldy, I want to come back to you here because one of the big storylines here, particularly after the game when he didn't talk to the media, was Will Campbell, the Patriots left tackle. I did a show from out right where you're sitting there in Los Angeles right before the draft with you. You were a big Will Campbell guy. He gets drafted highly. He says, we're going to just die for you while I'm protecting. Like, just a darling of the fan base. And now getting crushed because last night, I think the number we had from NFL research was 14 pressures given up. Looked like the Seahawks early in the game really wanted to get into his body. And that was something that a lot of folks were his arms long enough. One game does not define a player's career. One season doesn't define his career. He may wind up being a Hall of Famer. I'm not saying you were wrong. I'm not saying he's a bust by any stretch. But does any of this that you're seeing from him, particularly down the stretch, concern you?
Oh, absolutely. And it was more than just yesterday. This was going back to the Chargers game, the first playoff game. Will Anderson with the Houston Texans had a number of big plays against Will. Obviously, in the AFC Championship game, Nick Benito did as well. And so it was throughout the postseason where they really struggled. And it's kind of alarming, actually, for Josh McDaniels not to go out there and protect and help protect Will Campbell more than they did. A lot of, just short edges right there coming off, and he's opening up that back foot. But, they have to really reconsider here. Is he a left tackle or is he a guard? Like, I know he can play in this league, and he had a lot of success, but against elite pass rushers, he really, really struggled. Now, maybe Doug Marrone, the offensive line coach, works with him this offseason to really work on some of these faults that showed up throughout the postseason here. But they have a lot of thought that they have to put into this right now and what Will Campbell's future is going to be. Is it at left tackle or is it someplace else right now?
Yeah, it's going to be fascinating to see what discussions happen in the New England Patriots building about their top draft pick and one of the highest players they've drafted in quite a while. Drake Maye, the number 3 overall pick, one pick before Will Campbell, so maybe not quite that while. Mark, I want to go to you on this. What did you see from Drake Maye? And look, he talked after the game about how he did need to shoot up his shoulder. So obviously that sprain that he had in his shoulder was a real thing. He said he wasn't limited, but clearly there was something there. How much of his performance was the shoulder, and what would you make of the way he played, Mark?
Yeah, I wouldn't look at the way he played and say his shoulder was hurt. That was the reason why. And really, it's been the whole entire playoffs. And during the regular season, we talked about the Patriots' schedule and how weak it was. And this kind of came to fruition here now with the playoffs. Like, when you're beating teams that aren't as good as you, then it's easier for the quarterback to be proficient. Now in the playoffs, he played 4 of the best defenses in the league. But in order to be the guy, in order to be the Tom Brady, in order to be the Patrick Mahomes, you have to raise your level. You have to raise your game to that level of those top defenses. And what we saw with Drake Maye this postseason, he did not do that. Last night, he looked extremely shook. He did not look comfortable. He didn't see coverages. He was getting the ball out of his hand. He wasn't even aggressive running like he was against Denver. So his whole entire game, his whole entire confidence seemed to be down and not there to go with the whole team. So we'll see. Next year, got to be a huge bounce back year. The self-study, the self-reflection, the coaching staff. Hey, Drake, these are the things we need to get better on. And, of course, we'll try to see that get better next year.
Plenty more to discuss on this game. Guys, don't go very far. Get yourself comfortable. You're back with us later in the program to talk about a little more about Drake Maye. Where does he go from here? How do the Patriots get him to move past this game that he played against Seattle and, frankly, a postseason in which he struggled? But up next, we're talking to the winning side of this game. We're going to talk to Mike Macdonald, the Seahawks head coach. Unbelievable. 2 years in, and he has already taken this franchise to the peak of NFL football. Mike Macdonald joins the Insiders next.
1st and 10 at the Seattle 44. Here comes the blitz. Maye, he tries to throw. Ball comes out. Going the other way with it. Turning upfield. It's Chenoweth. Touchdown! Seahawks! The Seahawks defense, they have done it again. And now they can taste it. This defense has been absolutely stifling tonight.
Now joining us, Super Bowl winning head coach of the Seattle Seahawks, Mike Macdonald, Super Bowl winning coach. How does that sound?
Sounds pretty great. I don't believe it yet, but it's just been a special last 24 hours, and it's been a whirlwind, but it sounds pretty good.
So you were walking around the field last night, caught by cameras, obviously, because there's cameras everywhere, and it really looked like you were looking around and kind of soaking it in and just trying to understand, like, what had just happened and what you had accomplished. What were those moments right after the game? What were they like for you?
I remember, we're trying our tail off to get him stopped and then tackle him in bounds. And once we realized that was going to be it, man, what an absolute feeling. And then it's just, you're trying, you nailed it, Ian. You're trying to just make sense of it all. And then there's all these like voices in your head of like trying to enjoy the moment, and there's fireworks going off and there's music playing, and just tried to do my best to just take a deep breath and take it all in. It was pretty magical.
Well, I don't know if you can see it. I don't know if we have in the business, we call it return, where you can see the video. You're just staring up and you're looking up there. I mean, I don't know if it was the fire. What are you looking at there, and what's going through your head?
Well, truth be told, there's so many cameras, I didn't really want to look into the cameras. So I looked up, and then there's all these fireworks. And I'm like, well, this is pretty awesome. I'll just pay attention to all this stuff going on. And that's what was going through my mind, frankly. So it's that simple,
So when the Seahawks beat the Broncos in the Super Bowl, a decade ago, whenever that was, there was a Cam Chancellor hit on Demaryius Thomas that everybody remembers, where it looked like Demaryius Thomas basically broke his ribs. I mean, it was as hard a hit as you could imagine. It kind of set the tone, like, all right, this team, this might be too much physically. And I was thinking about that last night while watching you guys run the heck out of the ball and then really shut them out on defense for a long time. Was there a moment last night kind of like that where you watched and you're like, okay, I don't know physically if they can hang with us?
I don't think I was thinking through that lens. You're always trying to gauge, like, how our guys are playing in the, at the beginning, how we're starting the game. Are we playing with anticipation? Our ball carriers going backwards. And New England popped a couple runs on us that we had to make some adjustments. And so my mind was like, hey, how do we get to the next play constantly, and just how can we keep stacking all those plays to put ourselves in best position to win? You did feel the way our guys were playing, though. We were going to be a tough team to beat last night, and it turned out to be pretty accurate. They played. Our guys just played absolutely phenomenally. They played lights out. It was awesome.
I remember talking to you last year at the Combine, which, by the way, is in 2 weeks. As the Super Bowl champions, you're going to have the shortest offseason. Hey, listen, it's a good problem to have, and you'll figure out how to
It's a great problem.
But I remember talking
I'll do
to
this
you
every year if you need me to.
There you go, exactly. But I remember talking about year 1 to year 2. And I remember talking to people in your building about the lessons you'd learned and the progress you'd made. What was it that you learned and how much you growed from year 1 to year 2 to become a championship head coach and a coaching staff?
Man, I learned a lot. I think the cool thing that we have compared to some other teams is like, hey, we're kind of all in this thing together. This is a new experience for me. We have a shared vision about what we want to create here, and I think the players feel like the coaches are in it with them on what we do every day and what we're trying to create. And sometimes we screw up, sometimes we fall short, sometimes we nail it, and we just kind of just keep attacking it. And I think that's what makes the process so much fun, because the methods that we talk about can be new. It can be new school. Like, we can try stuff out. We can try to be innovative. We can make it really about what's the best for the Seahawks and not necessarily what XYZ team has done for X amount of years. And it makes the process a lot of fun. And I can tell you, I've learned a ton, and I feel like our players understand that we're in it with them. And man, we've grown a ton since last year. I can tell you that. Our team. I actually told Commissioner Goodell before the game, I said, man, doesn't this team feel a little different than the team was in Chicago last year? That's the last time we saw them, and we got a good chuckle out of that one, so that was pretty cool.
Got to hang out with them after the game, too, getting the trophy, all sorts of good stuff there. And it was actually interesting. So many of your players mentioned the togetherness of the team as far as, like, why you guys have gotten where you got. You mentioned the coaching staff. I want to talk about Klint Kubiak. Obviously, everyone knows he's going to be the head coach of the Raiders whenever that's official, either later today or tomorrow. He has become one of the excellent young offensive minds in the NFL. How important was, first of all, hiring him originally, and then any thoughts about where you might go to fill that position?
Well, it was tremendous. I mean, that was a critical decision for us on who was going to be leading our offense this year, and I think we made the right decision, which is pretty cool. And I think part of what made it so great was the staff that we were able to put together around Klint as well. As awesome as Klint did, it was a team effort. I think he'd be the first person to tell you that. And so we got some awesome coaches in-house that are going to be great candidates for us, but we're going to go through our process like we did last time. It's not going to take as long as it did last year, I can tell you that. But we're going to try to move pretty quickly so we can get moving and put the best staff we can possibly put together for our team. And something that I don't really want to think about right now, but unfortunately that's what we need to do.
Sorry.
All right, I'll give you something to think about. How about your Super Bowl winning quarterback? I say Super Bowl winning head coach to you. When people say Super Bowl winning quarterback for Sam Darnold, pretty incredible considering what he's been through his career. What'd you tell him last night?
Oh, man, I just told him I loved him and I was proud of him. Now that's got a good ring to it. Super Bowl winning quarterback, something that he has the rest of his life now, and he's earned it, And so I'm just extremely happy for him. He played a great football game. He's led us every day, and now he's got a ring to show for it. So it's pretty special.
You know, I don't know what. Obviously, you're going to be working the next little bit, next 2 weeks or so as you get ready to the combine. Then, you know, the scouting season is in full swing and free agency and all that. But how long do you think you're going to just enjoy this? And when do you say, all right, that was awesome, and now it's time to start on the next? Please tell me it's not like an immediate thing. Like, you don't have meetings like this afternoon, right?
No.
Okay, good.
We're gonna enjoy this one. I can promise you that. I believe the parade is Wednesday. I don't know if that's breaking news or anything, but
Nice.
Well, it's gonna be an awesome parade. It's gonna be great. I mean, I can't wait to celebrate with our city. We do have to hire an offensive coordinator, so that is a process that we're gonna, probably start as early as tomorrow. But we're gonna enjoy the heck out of it in the meanwhile, and if you don't enjoy it, I mean, what are you doing? What are you doing this whole thing for? So it's gonna be great.
Yeah, and it's a party and a celebration that's going to last for weeks, if not months, while you're also getting back to work for 2026. Last one for you. The last time the Seahawks won the Super Bowl, General Manager John Schneider was shirtless with a WWE Championship belt around him. The man knows how to party. Did the shirt come off last night? Give me a Schneider moment from last night.
I was like, one thing I didn't understand was, like, right after everything happened, I'm doing media for like 2 hours before I get to go back in the locker room. So I actually, normally John and I, we have a shared, we have a shared ritual after games. You might be able to fill in the blanks from that we normally share in my office, and we weren't able to do that yesterday, so that's kind of a bummer. So, I'm sure we'll make up for lost time.
Yeah, well, we'll cut you loose. No more media. Now you can go celebrate with John, maybe some mimosas. That's what they do at brunch these days. Mike Macdonald, Super Bowl winning coach, gonna get back to work, but also enjoy himself at a parade on Wednesday. Thank you for the breaking news on the timing of the parade, and go get it, pal. Congratulations.
All right, guys. Thanks a lot. I appreciate it.
It's going to be probably weeks or months before that man stops smiling. Good for you, Mike Macdonald. Not a lot of smiles on the Patriots sideline last night. We'll break down what went wrong there and what could go better. Mark and Baldy are back with us next on The Insiders.
Most people don't even wait for the Super Bowl to be over. They start weighing in on the old Twitter machine about what they think, and there was all sorts of reaction from last night's big-time Seattle win, the dominant win, and, of course, the other side of that is that the Patriots lost. So let's take a listen to head coach Mike Vrabel and his quarterback dealing with the fallout.
It's okay to be disappointed. We have to be disappointed and upset together. And, like I always do, I tell them I'm appreciative of them. I'm thankful. I'm grateful that I get to coach them. And, we don't want to – part of our identity is not being a front runner. And so, again, just like every year somebody's going to lose this game, and we have to remember what it feels like and make sure that it's not repeated.
Man, I'm so proud. That's probably the reason I'm choked up most. This team is something that just glad to be part of.
I feel like that's the right reaction from the Patriots. It's tough, but they got to appreciate what they did this season. Julian Edelman has sort of emerged as a elder statesman for the Patriots, despite not being on the team for several years. He weighs in as well. Welcome back in, Brian Baldinger and Mark Ross. So, Mark, I want to start with you. You heard from Drake Maye there, kind of, somber, but appreciating what this Patriots team did. And it is unbelievable what they did from so bad to so good. I mean, it was a true impressive performance. Now they got to go try to do it again, and they don't have the spoils of the win like Seahawks do, right? Like, they don't have the good feeling that kind of take them into the offseason. How do the Patriots, Mark, avoid the sort of Super Bowl hangover and get this thing back on track for next year?
Well, I think you see Mike Vrabel right there. That's number one. That guy's not going to let them have a letdown. He's going to keep having them ultimately prepared and competitive in the off season. So as soon as the team wins the Super Bowl, steps off the field, it's never the same team anymore for the winner. Same thing for the loser. So now as a personnel staff, all right, how do we get better? Well, now you have to attack free agency, and you've been analyzing your own team throughout the season to say who's our priority, who are we going to keep there of our own free agents, and now you're setting the board with looking at the other free agents, like who are we going to sign in the free agency there? How are we going to spend our money? Of course, it won't be a big spending spree like last season that completely changed it around, but key pieces that you're going to add in, of course, the draft element of it. All right, we're setting our draft board. We're having our draft meetings. We've been to the Senior Bowl. We got the Combine coming up. So you're really just attacking it at all those phases as a personnel department to say, how are we going to get better with adding talent? And also, Baldy, as we talked about earlier, the Drake Mays of the world, the Will Campbells of the world, we're going to need our young guys that we already have that already took a huge step. Now we got to take another step to the championship level, not just the runner-up level.
Yep, I agree on all those points, Mark. I think the other point is they don't have any assistant coaches. They're getting poached. So they're going to bring back their staff, the teachers. The guys are going to bring in those new players. They had 30 new players this year. The staff, Doug Marrone, Terrell Williams, Josh McDaniels, did a great job of teaching. So that's that one. The offseason is going to be 5 weeks shorter. They got to deal with that. But I think that, you look at the division, you're always building your team, right, Mark, to compete in your division. The division's in turmoil. We got new coaches in Buffalo, new coaches in Miami, coordinators with the Jets. So everybody's still looking up at the Patriots, and they've got such a good roster. It means there's very few holes to fill right here. And so now you've got a very good championship-level roster with a quarterback on a rookie contract where you can still do a lot of creativity with whether it's salary cap or contracts or whatever you might have. So I think they're in a good position. And to your point, Mike Vrabel will set the tone. This is where Mike Vrabel gets to be the real coach, to bring this team back, to not let this thing hang over, and to start 0-0 next year sometime in September. So I think this is a program that's in good shape right now.
This was a team that lost to the Raiders in Week 1. You want to talk about Week 1 overreactions? Let's remember that when Week 1 rolls around this upcoming season, which, by the way, may be one of the possibilities for the Seahawks hosting the opening game is the Patriots. The NFL has shied away from that in recent years. There's some other really good possibilities, including some divisional possibilities for the Seahawks for that game. I talked to a personnel guy who said, yeah, they're good, but they're not elite. There's still some finer tuning that needs to be done to this roster, and they understand that. You'd rather, in your second year, your first year there with Mike Vrabel as the head coach, have a Super Bowl loss as something to build off of rather than say, I don't know, a 9-8 season and maybe a quick exit in the playoffs. So they've tasted success. They have gotten to that point and understand what it takes to at least get there. Now, how do they get over the hump? The fine-tuning is to build some depth on this roster. Baldy, you talked about it. There is talent across this roster. Did a great job in free agency. There is talent there, but there needs to be some of those finer tunings there. Ian, I think you got it from here.
And if they have another draft next year like they did this past year, that would go a long way in doing that. Plus, they got all that money in free agency. We are going to be hearing from the Patriots for quite some time, especially if Drake Maye plays more like he did in the regular season, not like he did in the playoffs. But some of the reason that Drake Maye played like he did is because this Seattle defense, good job, guys, thanks, bye. This Seattle defense was unbelievably dominant. I mean, it really was. If you take a look at some of these numbers here and really understand, look, they score like an offense. The defense scores like an offense. They allow no points. Maybe the best we've seen since the Tampa Bay Buccaneers of 2002. If you watch, and all these numbers are good and they are real, but if you watch the game, it actually somehow looked better. So the Seahawks defense was good. The Seahawks offense was also good. And part of the reason was because Klint Kubiak is now, first of all, very good offensive coordinator, now going to be the head coach of the Las Vegas Raiders. Within the last few seconds, that has now just become official. Kubiak is the head coach. The Raiders have announced it, and obviously we've known for some time this was going to be the case. But they have now made it official. So, look, for the Raiders fans who have been starving, for some excitement, Raiders fans who have been starving for a head coach, certainly they get it. Did we want to weigh in on this, guys? let me know if you guys want to. Let me, Mike, you can start here on what you think of Klint Kubiak now officially as the Raiders head coach.
Go to Mark. I'll tee him up. Mark, it's the Kubiak style of offense. It's a guy that has done a great job as an offensive coordinator, likely with a number 1 overall quarterback in Fernando Mendoza. Your thought on this hire?
Well, it completely made sense. Like we told Stacey Dales last night, right? We're giving Stacey that credit. But yeah, it completely makes sense. If you got the first pick of the draft and it's going to be Mendoza, all right, let's bring in a guy that we just saw work wonders with Sam Darnold, with that offense, with all the pieces. So brings the championship pedigree, fresh off the championship right here. So it completely makes sense for the Raiders to kind of match your offensive-minded head coach with the first pick of the draft as a quarterback, Baldy. So let's hope for the Raiders' sake that there's finally some good vibes and positivity going on there.
Well, I'm curious, Mark, what coaches might follow Klint Kubiak to the Raiders. John Benton did a phenomenal job with the offensive line with Seattle. We saw it yesterday. We saw it throughout the postseason. We saw it throughout the season. Like, well, John Benton, I don't know who's going, who isn't going, but I'm sure the Raiders need to get their offensive line fixed. John Benton has been known to be, a guy that you just call him urgent care. He can fix things. And so I'm curious the staff that he might build and what coaches he might poach from Seattle. Seattle obviously made a great hire in Kubiak, getting rid of Ryan Grubb after the first year and fixing it. It's going to be a big position, as we've already discussed in the show, with Mike Macdonald to get that secured and filled with the right guy.
Yeah, I don't get the sense that Seattle's going to let him raid their staff. Maybe he takes one or, could pull somebody as a position coach or a non-offensive coordinator into a coordinator role. The bad news is you've got to fill out a staff really quickly. The good news is a lot of other teams have already filled it, so there's not a ton of competition. You don't want to take too much time because you got to get to work here as Klint Kubiak. We talked about for the Seahawks the short offseason. It's going to be a short offseason for the Raiders, and they've got so much more work to do with Klint Kubiak building out the staff. So let's see how it goes here in the near future.
One name to keep an eye on from the Seattle staff, actually there's a couple of names to keep an eye on, but Andrew Janocko, who has been the quarterback's coach for Seattle, who is a close ally of Klint Kubiak. Perhaps he is in the mix as offensive coordinator. Jake Peets, another really good young coach who has been, I believe it's passing game in Seattle would be another name. Certainly to keep an eye on as far as either OC in Seattle or potential OC with the Las Vegas Raiders. So Klint Kubiak now, thank you guys very much, official as the Las Vegas Raiders head coach after weeks and weeks of speculation and expecting. One of the reasons he was so good, Kenneth Walker III, who really just put everything he had on the field yesterday, a pending free agent. He helped lead his team to a Super Bowl. We will chat with the Super Bowl MVP coming up next in a star-studded edition of The Insiders.
3, 2, 1, the Seahawks, they're bringing it home again for the second time. The Seahawks win Super Bowl 60. They are bringing the Lombardi back to the Northwest, and the party begins at Levi Stadium and in Seattle, and it won't stop for days.
Steve Rabel, you are correct about that. The great longtime play-by-play guy for the Seahawks with the call there. Yes, Kenneth Walker. I was surprised. I thought this would have been double digits. Just the 8th running back / fullback to win Super Bowl MVP, the first since Terrell Davis. Quick Roman numeral, 32, 60 minus 32. It's 28 years. I should know that. I posted on social media last night. Kenneth Walker, what a night he had. Did he party? We asked him about it. Joining us now, the man of the hour, the Super Bowl 60 MVP, Seahawks running back, Kenneth Walker III. Kenneth, congratulations, man. You just wrapped up your MVP presser behind you. How has this experience been for you so far?
It's been good, man. It's just a blessing to have made it this far. It was a long season. We had a lot of ups and downs, but, we weathered through it and we made it.
So generally after a Super Bowl win, or so I've heard, I've never experienced it like you just have, but it is a little bit of a blur. It can involve a late night. It can be a little groggy in the morning. How are you feeling, and what have the last 12 or so hours been like for you?
Yeah, well, I haven't slept, bro. I've been up since I just haven't slept. So I've been up. It really hasn't hit me yet, I don't believe. I thought about it a little bit when I was with my family, but, I'm still going through the process right now.
I did hear this, and I want you to confirm it if you can, because you're a quiet guy. You're to yourself. You're not about the hoopla in a lot of ways. Did you not even go to the post-game party? Did you prefer a quiet night with your family? Is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, I don't party or nothing. So after the game, I went, saw my family, chilled with them real quick, then went back to my room, and I had to pack and everything. So, yeah, I stay away from parties.
Well, I'm sure some of your teammates probably partied enough for you anyway. So in those moments with your family, look, it's a long season. You haven't slept. You're tired. And it's all a lot just to even get here. But how much time did you take to say, take a look at what either you accomplished yourself or what the team accomplished just to get here? Because really it was, a dominant performance at the end of a very dominant season.
Yeah, I think it really hit me when I really sat and thought about it was really before the game. We had warm-ups and everything, and right before we came out for the national anthem and everything, is when I really sat and soaked it all in and really thought about how far we came as a team. We built this brotherhood since OTAs and training camp, and, we went through the season. So, being able to think about it and how far we came, it means a lot to me, and I know it means a lot to my teammates.
Yep. Kenneth, I heard you last night say that, your father, it's his first NFL game, kind of like you, not about the hoopla, not about the partying, not about the big scenes, doesn't like to necessarily put himself in those situations. I heard you say your agent, now we reported on this recently because you're a pending free agent. You changed agents to David Canner and Nes Mugrabi of Aura Sports. And I hear, especially this time of year, guys say, well, I'm going to go in the draft. I don't need an agent. I can do the contract. The agent is about so much more than just the contract. What were those conversations like for David and Ness to help get your dad in the building? And could you imagine doing this last night without him there?
Getting my dad to the game or doing what? What do you mean by that?
Yeah, could you imagine winning the Super Bowl, being the MVP, and your dad wouldn't have been there? How much more special was it that he was there?
Oh, yeah, it means a lot to me, because of course, my dad, he's been with me since day one, working out, just doing everything with me and really helping me grow and be who I am today. So having him there and having his support means the world to me, and I'm glad we was able to come out with the win.
So Mike mentioned you are a pending free agent, and you've had plenty of success over the last 4 years, but the way you've played over the last month or so, obviously, you guys lost Zach Charbonnet and really haven't missed a beat running the ball. What do you think you've showed either teams who may want you or your current team about the kind of starting running back you could be and the kind of value that you have?
I believe I showed explosiveness and, versatility. Also, I believe I showed that I'm a playmaker, and that's pretty much it. I believe I showed everything last night.
You're going to Disneyland because I heard you and Sam Darnold. You said, we're going to Disneyland. You got to do that commercial there. Now you get to actually go to Disneyland. Tell me what your thoughts are for what Sam Darnold has accomplished, for coming from a place where not a lot of guys can come back from with regard to the number of stops he made along the way to get to this point. How happy are you for Sam?
Yeah, I'm very happy for Sam. I remember I asked him early in the season, what was it like to go through what he went through, his journey and everything, and how his mentality was. And he was just an even kill. That's how he is in games. If you make a mistake, he even kill. He comes back and make a play, and that's the type of person you want in your locker room, and that's the type of leader you want. So, and he also just a great person all around.
Next stop, Space Mountain or the Runaway Train. I forget what rides they have there at Disneyland. Maybe I should make a visit. So do me a favor, take some notes. Let me know what rides they hit up, what attractions they hit up. Kenneth Walker, you are going to Disneyland, Super Bowl MVP. Crazy. Congratulations. Appreciate you joining us, pal.
I appreciate you, brother. Thanks for having me.
Thanks, man.